Cemeteries are meant to be places of rest, but there's something deeply unsettling about them. The silence feels too heavy, the air too still, like something unseen is watching. Maybe it's the weight of so much death in one place, or maybe some of them never truly left. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more scary stories. Somewhere along Route 22, nestled deep within the Appalachian foothills, there was a stretch of road that locals didn't talk about. It wasn't marked on most maps, and any attempts to find it online led to dead links and broken pages. Ben wouldn't have taken that road if he hadn't been running late. He was heading to visit his uncle in Kentucky, an 8-hour drive through the winding hills. His GPS had been glitching since sunset, rerouting him down unfamiliar roads. At some point, he lost cell service entirely. The last thing his phone displayed before going dark was fastest route recalculated. The road was narrow and empty, flanked by towering trees that swallowed the sky. His headlights barely cut through the thick fog curling at the edges of the pavement. It felt wrong, like he was trespassing somewhere he shouldn't be. Then he saw it. A cemetery, just off the side of the road. It was old, ancient even, with weathered tombstones leaning at odd angles, some completely sunken into the ground. A rusted wrought iron gate stood open, one of its hinges snapped. There was no name on the entrance, no sign, no indication of when it had last been used. But the strangest thing, it hadn't been there before. Ben had driven this stretch of road multiple times, and he was sure he had never seen a cemetery here. Not once. A chill crept up his spine. His hands tightened on the wheel, but as he prepared to drive past, something made him stop. A woman was standing among the graves. Her figure was barely visible through the mist, but she was facing him, watching. Ben's breath hitched. She was too still, too quiet. His heart pounded as he realized she was standing on top of a grave, her feet positioned directly over a headstone. And then she smiled. Ben slammed on the gas, tires screeching against the cracked pavement. The cemetery blurred past him in a haze of fog and decay. His knuckles were white on the wheel as he forced himself not to look in the rearview mirror. He didn't want to see if she was still there. He didn't want to see if she had moved closer. Ben made it to his uncle's house late that night, shaken but unwilling to admit how much that cemetery had disturbed him. He told himself it was just his imagination, that maybe he was tired, that maybe the fog had played tricks on his eyes. But when he went to sleep, he dreamed of graves stretching endlessly in all directions. The woman was there, standing at the edge of the cemetery, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Her face was wrong, too smooth, too perfect, like a mannequin trying to mimic human expression. "You weren't supposed to see me," she whispered. Ben woke up gasping. The next day, his uncle noticed something was off. "You look like you saw a ghost," he joked. Ben hesitated before finally telling him about the cemetery, the woman, the fog, the unease that still lingered. His uncle's face darkened. "There's no cemetery on Route 22, he said. Ben felt his stomach drop. "Are you sure?" "It was right off the road. Looked really old." His uncle shook his head. "There was a cemetery there a long time ago, but they moved the graves when the land flooded. Nothing's left but trees now." Ben's mouth went dry. Nothing's left. Then what the hell had he seen? On his way home, Ben avoided Route 22 altogether. But that didn't matter. Somewhere along his drive, the fog returned. His GPS flickered, recalibrating. And when he glanced at the side of the road, his heart nearly stopped. The cemetery was there again. But this time, the gate was closed. and the woman was standing just outside of it, waiting. There was a cemetery just outside of town, Ravenwood Cemetery, a place no one liked talking about. It was old, older than the town itself, and had fallen into disrepair over the years. The gates were rusted, the headstones cracked, and thick vines had overtaken the pathways. The locals whispered about it, saying things like, "You don't go there at night," and "Some people go in and don't come back." Sam never paid much attention to ghost stories. He was a practical guy, more focused on his late night shifts at the gas station than urban legends. But that changed one cold autumn night when he was driving home past the cemetery and saw her. She was standing just inside the rusted iron gates, barely visible under the dim streetlights. She wore an old-fashioned black dress, like something from the 1800s, and her hair was long, unkempt. She stood completely still, staring at the road as if waiting for someone. Sam slowed his car, his gut twisting with unease. He thought about stopping, maybe asking if she needed help. But something about her presence felt wrong. Her posture was too rigid. Her face, though distant, seemed blurred, like he couldn't quite focus on it. Then she moved. Not like a person, not like someone walking. It was too smooth, too fast, as if she had simply shifted closer. Sam's stomach dropped. He hit the gas and sped away, his hands gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles went white. When he got home, he told himself he had imagined it. The fog, the darkness, his mind had played tricks on him. But then, the dream started. That night, Sam dreamed he was standing in front of Ravenwood Cemetery. The iron gates were wide open, leading into a swirling fog. The woman was there, standing among the graves. She lifted a pale hand and pointed at him. Sam couldn't move. Then she opened her mouth. A horrible, choking sound came from her throat, like a voice that had been unused for centuries, cracked and dry. The words were muffled, impossible to understand, but the tone was clear. It was a command. Come back. Sam woke up gasping. The following night, he saw her again, this time while driving home. She was closer now, just outside the gates, her body half illuminated by his headlights. The moment she came into view, the streetlights flickered and died, plunging the road into darkness. Sam's car shuddered, like it was struggling to keep running. And then, she lifted her hand again. Come back. Sam slammed his foot on the gas, speeding past the cemetery, heart hammering in his chest. But something wasn't right. He checked his rearview mirror. She was sitting in his back seat. Sam nearly swerved off the road. He turned around instantly, but the seat was empty. The car smelled like rotting flowers. Sam refused to drive past the cemetery again. He took the long way home, avoiding Ravenwood entirely. But that didn't stop her. That night, he dreamed he was inside the cemetery. The air was thick, suffocating, and the graves stretched endlessly in every direction. The woman was closer this time, standing only a few feet away. Her face was still blurred, but now he could make out deep hollow sockets where her eyes should have been. Her mouth stretched too wide when she spoke. You took something from me. Sam tried to speak, tried to ask what she meant, but his voice was gone. You took something from me, she repeated. Then the ground split open beneath him and he fell into blackness. He woke up screaming. Sam had never stolen anything in his life. But the woman clearly believed otherwise. Desperate, he went to the local library, searching for anything about Ravenwood Cemetery. That's when he found it. Over a century ago, a grieving mother had been buried at Ravenwood. She had lost her child to illness. and spent years visiting his grave, refusing to move on. When she finally died, locals whispered that she had been buried with a keepsake, a pendant belonging to her son, but a grave robber had stolen it years later. Some say the woman never left the cemetery after that. She waits, she searches, and those who cross her path, she makes them pay. That night, Sam drove back to the cemetery. He parked outside the rusted gates, breathing heavily. He wasn't sure what he was expecting, but she was there, standing in the fog, watching him. Her empty eyes burned into him. Sam hesitated. Then slowly, he stepped through the gates. He didn't know why. Maybe he was trapped in her spell. Maybe some part of him knew there was no escaping her. The moment he crossed the threshold, the air went frigid. She lifted her hand again, pointing to a specific grave. Sam felt his body move on its own, his feet dragging him forward. The headstone was cracked, covered in thick ivy. He bent down, brushing away the vines, and his breath caught in his throat. Something was half buried in the dirt. A silver pendant. A pendant he recognized, because it was in his mother's old jewelry box, because he had seen it his entire life, because it had always been there, and yet it belonged to her son. Sam's stomach turned. He wasn't a thief. He had never stolen anything. But somehow, this pendant, the one his mother had always owned, had once belonged to the woman's dead child. His mind raced. How was that possible? Was this a warning? Was he part of something he didn't understand? He didn't have time to think. The moment he touched the pendant, the world went black. When Sam woke up, he was in his car. His engine was running. The sun was rising. Had it been a dream? A hallucination? Shaking, he drove home, parked his car, and stumbled inside. His hands were filthy, dirt under his fingernails. Then, on his nightstand, a silver pendant, exactly where it had always been. But this time, it was stained with fresh soil. Michael had never believed in ghosts. That changed the night he agreed to meet his friend Kevin at Black Hollow Cemetery. The place had been abandoned for decades, left to rot under layers of thick ivy and creeping shadows. The few people who spoke about it at all swore it was cursed. Some claimed they heard whispers from the graves. Others said figures moved in the fog. Kevin, always the reckless one, wanted to see if the legends were true. Michael didn't believe in any of it. At least, that's what he told himself. They parked their car a few blocks away to avoid suspicion and hopped the rusted fence. The second Michael's feet hit the ground on the other side, something felt wrong. The cemetery was silent. Not just quiet, dead silent. No wind, no animals. Even their footsteps seemed muted, swallowed by the air. "You feel that?" Michael whispered. Kevin grinned. "Scared already?" Michael rolled his eyes, but the truth was, he was. They followed a broken stone path through rows of cracked headstones, their flashlights slicing through the thick fog rolling in from the woods. As they neared the heart of the graveyard, the silence was shattered. A whisper. Both men froze. Michael's skin crawled. It had been clear as day, cutting through the stillness like a blade. Not the wind, not an animal. It was words too faint to make out. Kevin laughed nervously. "Okay, that was weird." Then it happened again. This time it was louder. Michael's breath hitched. He swung his flashlight around, scanning the graves. That's when he noticed something was off. The ground in front of a particular headstone looked disturbed. The soil was loose, uneven, like someone had dug into it recently. He nudged Kevin. "Dude, Look! Kevin stepped closer and crouched, running his fingers through the soft dirt. He frowned, then started digging. Michael swallowed hard. Maybe we shouldn't... Kevin gasped. Something pale poked through the soil. A hand. Michael stumbled back as Kevin scrambled to uncover more. The body was fresh, barely decomposed. The whispering stopped. A wave of dread crashed over Michael. The air felt heavy, suffocating. Kev, let's go. Kevin didn't respond. He was staring at the corpse, his hands trembling. Then he spoke, but his voice sounded wrong, hollow. This grave wasn't meant for him. Michael's stomach dropped. What? Kevin slowly turned his head. His eyes were blank, his mouth slightly open. Then, in a voice that wasn't his, Kevin whispered, It was meant for you. Michael ran. He didn't think. He didn't look back. He bolted through the headstones, barely able to see through the fog. Something was behind him, its presence crawling up his spine. When he reached the fence, he threw himself over it and sprinted to the car. The engine wouldn't start. His hands were shaking as he turned the key again. Nothing. Then, a tap on his window. Michael turned, heart pounding. Kevin stood outside, smiling, but something was wrong. His eyes, they weren't Kevin's eyes. They were dark, empty. He lifted a handful of dirt and let it trickle through his fingers. Michael's breath caught in his throat. Kevin tilted his head. Then, in that same inhuman whisper, he said, You should have stayed. Michael blacked out. When he woke up, he was in his own bed. For a moment, he thought it had been a nightmare. But then he sat up. His clothes were covered in dirt, and clutched in his hand was a piece of a broken headstone. It had his name on it. Born, 1998. Died, 2023.